Flow Riders, and welcome to another edition of The Flow. Anyway, I'm Doc Rock, along with my awesome co-host.
Hey everyone, it's Katie. This is so much fun. We've been on hiatus, and we're popping back up into your feed. I'm excited.
Look, that still cracks me up every time you go, hey, this is Katie.
It feels just the appropriate level of awkward, if we're being really honest. You know, it's important to have just that awkward moment. Yeah.
That should be a good name for an album. The
appropriately awkward. It's perfect. Don't steal it. We're gonna trademark that one. That's ours.
Appropriate level of awkward is the name of my Weird Al Yankovic cover band. Me and my friends in tech, we used to always play that. Something is the name of my whatever cover band. And my old editor from 2 Hour, Mike Rose, he is the absolute best at that. He's super quick. It cracks me up every time. Anyway, what we have on deck today, Kate.
Oh my goodness. Well, we have a case study, which I'm really excited by. I know case studies sound really boring, but are actually super, super fun. We had DJ Val reach out to us, and he is a radio DJ, and he's got some really awesome stuff that he's been up to. So I'm excited to bring him on so we can chat all about what he is doing and how he is doing it so we can all learn together. It's a win-win.
All right. Well, there you go. Without further ado, first of all, people, if you need to get in contact with us, because you can say, I want to be a guest, or you have a suggestion, or all of the above, go to flow.ecamm.com, and there's a little thing on the side. Press the button, and then you can even leave us a voicemail, which is the fun part. I was checking my email. It's like, hey, you got a voicemail. And I'm like, wow.
It feels very 90s.
Yes. It still cracks me up to this day. I'm waiting for my, the big pager that we had that was like, yo, big. I'm still waiting for the pager to be like, you have a message. Then you sit there and try to read it on that tiny little screen.
Well, that is what DJ Val did. Well, hang on. I'm going to give an official intro. Okay. So DJ Val boasts over a decade of experience as a radio presenter. Amidst the lockdown, he launched Soul Food Gospel Radio. So swing on over and hit that subscribe button, Soul Food Gospel Radio, which is a 24-hour online station. He's earned numerous awards for his flagship program, the Soul Food Gospel Show, broadcasted live on YouTube. And the show became instrumental in driving the station's video element. So if you're looking for a great person to copy ideas from, Val is your guy. So we're excited for him to be on here to share all of his insights and ideas.
Well, there you go.
Welcome to the show, Val. And this is we were just saying with the website. So Val just went to the site and was like, I want to be a guest, and filled out the form, and it hit our inbox, which I love.
I think it's important. Go for it, Val.
No, I was good. I was going to say, I caught a show and I thought, you know what? It's about time. And you guys make it so easy. I just went over and I kind of delayed a little bit, but then I found the button, and then, the rest is history. But, thank you, Doc. Thank you, Katie, for having me.
Oh gosh.
I think it's important. One of the things that I've hearing a lot recently, and I completely agree with, and in order to be really good at doing this and to get good guests, you have to be a good guest. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I think a lot of people don't do is find spots for them to be guests on shows. There are so many brand new shows, people. There are a ton of, in the Ecamm fam alone, there are a ton of new shows. So just to get good at, contemporaneous speaking, us radio people, that's just what we do, right? But in order to get those reps in, you have to go be a guest on somebody's show. It's like, well, I don't know who to ask. I don't know. Go to the Facebook group and be like, hey, man, I need to be a guest on some shows. Holla at me. Yeah. It's that simple. It's simply that simple.
Yeah, ask us. Do exactly what Val did. Ask us. Come be on our show. I
popped into the Facebook group and I said, hey, gang, I'm coming to Atlanta. I want to be an extra day because flights in and out of Atlanta on 4th of July weekend, go figure, are really crowded. So I'm stuck there an extra day. I don't know if being in Atlanta is actually stuck. I hear the wings are good. But I'm like, hey, Ecamm fam, let's go do coffee. 50 people. I'm in. Let's go. So you see how simple that is? So for people saying, I can't find any guests for my show, I don't know who you're talking to. I'm not listening.
Yeah.
Well, Val, we are super excited for you to share a little bit about your journey. So, I mean, how did you get started in all of this? What was the moment where you're like, yep, radio, that's for me? You have the perfect radio voice. So I feel like you were sort of born into this a little bit. How did you get started?
It's funny. I was kind of like saying a little bit in the pre-show. So, if the question, if anybody asked me, right, if you had $1 million, and it was always $1 million, not £1 million. I'm in the UK. If you had $1 million, right, what would you do? And the question always was, I would own and set up a radio station. And, back then, you probably would need $1 million to get a radio station because there was none of this internet stuff and where we currently are now. But it was one of the things that had always been in my heart and my soul and in my mind. And I was fortunate. My local church started a radio station and I learned how to do some producing on there. But I knew where I really wanted to be was in the big chair, hosting shows. And, 2013, that's when the doors opened for me. And I just kind of like fell into it and got bit properly by the bug. And then I just couldn't stop.
I like that. Got bit properly by the bug. That is so true. First of all, this is just me being selfish. What part of the UK?
So just outside London. It's a place called
LC Tottenham.
No, a little bit further out. It's a place called
Doc wants to know what football club you support. That's what he's really getting towards. Whatever you say is okay.
Okay, let's just say currently I'm aligned with the blue part of London. Does that help?
No fighting here on the show, Doc.
No, we're good.
Kindness
only.
We're
good.
We're good.
All right.
We're good.
We may have to have Luis move me in the middle so that we can
he's like slowly disappearing. Just listen. Okay, so Val, back in the day, my brother and I, we set up a shoutcast radio. Like this was super early on, right? And at that time, there wasn't even an easy way for you to interject anything to say, right? Basically, what we would do is just collect all of these MP3s. And at the time, what we were doing is we were bringing like Korean hip hop to the US, and then we were playing it off of a little Mac that we had in the back of our store. And then I remember back then, the internet, you had meter, right? So you would get to a certain point and then they would start charging you extra. And then my dad would be like, hey, how come our internet bill's so high? All you do is send invoices and collect invoices for the store. And we're like, yeah, I don't know, Dad. just let's
Must be broken.
Okay. So one day he's like, what is this computer doing? So like, and people always going to ask this question, especially my side of the team. All right, so what type of gear did you use to set this up?
So let me take a step back. So the studio that we had in church was a fully functional studio. So it had everything, like you see like a proper broadcast studio. But in lockdown, I kind of found myself not being able to get into the studio. And I had a bit of sound engineering background as well. And, you're at home, you got a captive audience. And speaking to a few of my friends, like, okay, let's get you set up at, we can tell you how to do it. So initially I had a mixer, I had a microphone. There was no video element supposed to be in there at all. And, that's how I would just stream out. I think I was using like virtual DJ to stream audio at one point out to somewhere to make things happen. And it was really, just a little mishmash of things that were put together. But for my produce shows that I would still send to the station, that was fine, because I had my mixing turntables and I could mix the tracks and send out, everything out to the radio station. And then they would then play that. On their playout system. So it was really, really basic to start off with. And then I'm not sure if it was a blessing or not a blessing, but then I kind of got caught up with the live streaming pros. And that's how I got introduced to all of you. And that's when things started to change in terms of the kit that I started to buy. Especially Doc. Doc costs me a lot of money. He has these really great ideas that just come up, and you see him doing stuff, and you think, that's good. That's really good, but I've got to justify it, and I would be able to justify every single time, which was a bit frustrating to everybody else. But hey, you got to do what you got to do. But I picked up a Rodecaster to start things off, and I thought, okay, that's going that's going really great. And then I kind of worked out that the Mac that I had, it was really struggling with the kind of work that I wanted it to do, So eventually I got myself an iMac as well, and I thought, well, that's really going to help out with things too. And then I hear things about, you need to get Loopback, and you need to get Audio Hijack Pro, and have you heard of something called Canva if you want to do some stuff in there? And bit by bit, you're just buying all of this stuff and getting to use it and put it into your workflow. So now it's like Stream Deck. You got to have a Stream Deck, and I'm sure it was Doc that said, "Get the big one and not the small one."
Yeah, everyone says get the big one,
right? And
everybody except for Michelle, everybody that starts out with a 15 eventually gets a 32.
Yeah,
and so they end up just going bigger, which is kind of funny to us. But yeah, you're right. You definitely need the big one.
Yeah, so I got the small one, and I thought, oh, this is like hard work. I need the big one. So then I got the big one, and where things really took a turn was when I really decided to put the video element into the shows that was going on. I had a Nikon camera, Nikon DSLR 7200, and then
I think that's the exact same camera I started with it.
Really?
I was using plugged in my yeah. It was that was like my for fun photography camera, and I was like, oh, I can use this for live streaming.
Yeah. It was, and then in the middle of lockdown, I don't know if you remember, nobody could get any of the cam links. So, I had to hang around to get a cam link and get this all going. And then I put the camera on for 30 seconds of one of my, so-called streams back then, just to get it going. And everyone go, oh, we see you. Oh, we really like it. And that was, I just felt the overwhelming need. But I was using OBS, right? And because I was following the guys over there live streaming as well, and they kept saying, really, you need something that is designed for the Mac, for if you really want to go streaming. And, I kept looking at Ecamm, and one day, a still small voice, anybody that's from a church background would get it, a still small voice said, you need to make the change to Ecamm, and you need to do it now. Don't go for a trial. Don't waste your time. Just cold turkey, overnight, change everything over to Ecamm, and that's what you're going to be working with. And so that's in essence, what I did. And here am I, kind of like a couple of years later on, just streaming out on YouTube and doing a whole load of other bits and pieces as well. So
that's awesome. I love I think it's really important for people to understand, and you're a great example of this, that you come from a church background. Yeah. You also come from a background in the radio world. So you know how big and complicated, in quotations, and expensive all of this stuff can be, which I think a lot of people that came in and started podcasting and started live streaming and creating content during the pandemic didn't necessarily understand that. You had such a great foundation that a lot of people are missing. So it's always interesting to talk to people on either side of it. Doc was a great example of this as well. When he joined and started using Ecamm, he was like, this is way cheaper and easier than anything that I was using before. Whereas you have people who are coming in from the other side who are like, whoa, there's, so much kind of tech that you can plug in and so many different things that it feels big. So it's interesting to kind of think about as you're thinking about starting a podcast or growing your podcast, understanding that this used to cost millions of dollars. There used to have to be a full studio. You needed all kinds of stuff in order to be successful at this. So I think you had a really great foundation for being able to be really successful in this space. Yeah.
And that worked, again, you mentioned the cost. So I know how much money it costs because, my church is quite heavily involved in streaming then over, over the lockdown period as well. So, there's a lot there. And realistically, there's two things about Ecamm I like. One, it was designed, and it is designed for Mac and Mac only. So there's no, and two, it's just
it's a great way to phrase it.
Yeah, it's just it's not one of those ones that it's kind of thinking that it's strictly designed for Mac, and I think that was one of the things that really pushed me there. So as a radio guy, I run a radio station from my iMac as well. I use radio DJ Logic, I think it's called.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it again is one of those things you had to like struggle to find something, because I was just keen to be and stay on Mac. I just, once you go Mac, you never go back. And I made the switch in 2006, and that was it. I wasn't going back. So, everything that I do, is all dedicated Mac software. So Ecamm just slipped it, and it's just so easy to use. Oh my goodness gracious. I mean, you put it in and, you're there, like, wow.
that is my curse, because it is easy to use, but there's definitely people that will struggle. And I'm like, the main reason why anyone's going to struggle at this is because you tell yourself you can't do it. Right. The program itself is very easy. And matter of fact, I think to some extent, for me trying to drag all of my nerd friends over here, it's too easy. And they'll do exactly what I did. When I first got it, like, I remember looking at the price tag, and I know I was coming from Wirecast. I was like, there's no way this software, which is not even a tenth of the price of Wirecast, there's no way this can do the same thing. Yeah. And then so I opened it up, I looked at it, and it goes, oh, it's cute interface, whatever, but Wirecast is so powerful. And then Wirecast was getting on my nerves. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get rid of that. That was like $1,000 a year to run Wirecast. And then I tried OBS, and I was like, okay, this is cool because I can get in, I can do all the minutia. I can get down and pick, bit rates and all this other stuff, which I fully know how to do. And the interface just didn't make sense. Why? Because it's a PC port. Yeah. And I know how to use PC, but when I'm sitting at my Mac, my brain is in Mac mode. When I'm sitting at my PC, my brain is in PC mode. And normally I'm trying to cut wood. And the number one thing I'm thinking about is not get my fingers stuck in this giant like body carver over here. So I'm very attentive to what's going on there, but it's a whole different mindset. And I often find myself mixing the control and alt keys when I'm there. I'm like, I'm a Mac person. Like, I honestly would never buy a PC, but the CNC machine runs on PC. When I got Ecamm, I was like, there's really no way this is good, but I have no choice. I'm going to look at it again because Streamlabs OBS finally came out, and yes, we got a Mac port, and it was still trash. And then I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. Oh my God, this is crazy. I started calling all my friends, and I'm like, yo, you guys should switch the whole show over to doing it in Ecamm. And literally 3 of them are finally making their way over. And they're like, oh, they did the exact same thing I did. Because we were old school tech people and we knew what we were doing. Yeah. We're like, there's no way this program this easy can be as good as it is. And it's amazing.
Fabulous.
And look, you just have to like, it's like, no way a peanut butter and jelly sandwich could be that good. Yeah, it is. yeah, it is. You're going to want one today.
Yeah.
What is the I guess run of show or the workflow look like for your show, Val? How did you build it out, and how has that shifted, I guess, over the last few years?
So, first of all, from not having any video to now incorporating the whole video element was a huge step for me. But kind of like show preparation. I think one of the key things I always remember hearing, and I've got to give shouts going out there again to Luria, and there was another guy that used to do the show with her as well back then in lockdown.
David, yeah. Yep.
So they had this pay what you can to be part of the, and I paid what I could back then because I didn't know what I was doing, so I paid what I could. And I remember one of the things they said, key thing is to start, but also make sure that your audio sounds great. And obviously coming from the audio background, I always kind of like look at my audio and get that done as well. So I tend to kind of like set up my music first of all, know what I'm going to play. I think now I almost do a lot of things quite seamlessly. So, you know, I've got my scenes already set up in Ecamm. I've got on my Stream Deck, so I you know, I've got the buttons can open different a different set of different windows and profiles and things like that as well. So if I've got a guest on, I press the Stream Deck and we go to the guest bit where, you know, I'm punching backwards and forwards for the guest and things like that as well. But I think the most important thing is just, you know, just realizing that, you know, having your scenes and having them set out. And I think with how Ecamm is evolved as well, it just becomes easier and easier. So for example, I had it's a bit of an aside, but I think it's a good thing as well. So I had a bit of an issue with one of the profiles on my iMac, and, you know, Mac support said, well, you're going to have to delete that profile and start again. It's not something that you want to hear. And I thought, yeah, you know, I've managed this for a good long while, and, you know, you've got all your little tricks and everything, you know, built in. And so I said, all right, I'll do it. So I was able to, you know, export my profile from Ecamm, you know, which was like, whoa, it's amazing. You mean I'm not going to lose all that hard work, you know, little things like that. So I think it's there's so many bits that I do. And I think, generally speaking, it just becomes like second nature. Like, you know, now you can edit, you know, an image that you have already in place. So like when my show starts, I always have like my show flyer on the kind of like countdown, and again, you got countdown timers. So I always change that image. Now I can just go click, it says, you know, oh, which file do you want to put back in that place, and you can swap it out and put it back in. So, you know, that's kind of like all really, you know, set out for me. And then all I got to do is press a button. Well, let's take a step back. It's not as easy as that, folks. So, you know, normally I kind of put my show.
Almost.
It is. It really is. So, you know, I kind of like set up my show. I've learned to make sure that there's, you know, the show goes out into YouTube, so it's already waiting there, so that when I want to connect, and again, it's so easy for you to kind of like preload and have your show waiting there on Ecamm as well. So when I'm ready to go live, I just hit my go live and I hit YouTube, and then I also go out to Restream as well. So I use Restream too. So one of the things I use Restream for is one of my shows, I actually pre-record it, and they have a great pre-record function on Restream. So it gives the impression that the show is coming out live. Hope nobody's watching. It gives the impression that the show is coming out live, but it's saved on Restream's like platform server, so you can press and that can go out live. So there's a show that I do like that, and you can do other things as well. So all of these things now come together just to give the audio show just a whole lot more, you know, just a whole lot more interaction. You've got the comments that can come up and come on the screen as well. You know, you're pressing buttons and you're going to different scenes and running different ads and links and so many other bits and pieces as well. I run like a daily devotional section as well. So, you know, I've got a button on my Stream Deck to make sure that all goes through as well. So in essence, that 2-hour show is, you know, probably born of maybe 5 or maybe 4 or 5 years of work to actually fine tune to get it that way. But I'll be honest with you, I could just go with nothing and I would be good to go.
Yeah. There you go. I would like to take this time to give everyone who's listening a friendly reminder to back up your seats. Just select them, drag them to the desktop into a folder, and then also back up your profiles. Go to the profile tab, slide down to export, and export. I am amazed at how many people come in screaming, I lost all of my seats. Not my problem, because I back mine up all the time. What are you doing? Like, you should just do it. Yeah. And it's actually really cool because, like you said, if you do have to do it again, it's very simple. You just double click the backup file or you double click the profiles and it brings everything back. Yeah. That's also, to me, normally before I make a drastic change, right? Say I'm going to try something crazy, like inject another camera or, even change audio devices. Sometimes I'll back up my profiles just in case, right? And every time I do upgrade, I back up my profiles. And one of my friends recently didn't do that and lost the profiles. And then she was kind of angry. And I'm like, I kind of want to feel bad for you, but you, being my friend, constantly hear me tell people to back up their profiles. So I'm sorry. Love you.
I totally did that the other day. I was cleaning up my profiles because I'm always testing and playing around with things. So I had like a bajillion of them and I was moving fast at some point. So I had, I think, 3 different profiles that were called like office hours, new office hours, something else. So like, they were all like, yeah, they were like all, so I was like, oh, I'll delete out these old ones and whatever. And I totally deleted out the new version probably an hour before I had to go live. So it's worth exporting those before you decide that you want to delete it, just in case you need those old ones.
But it's also very nice to clean them up because when you look at the list is long, especially because we are testing all the time. That list gets crazy, and I look at the list and I'm like, oh my god, it's almost touching the bottom of the screen. It's time to start cleaning house.
Yeah. The good thing though, and I love, Val, that you're using scenes and profiles, because I really think that what people seem to fail to understand, so what's like super important for everyone listening to get, is that you and whether you're a podcaster or you're doing a live show or some combination of both, or even just recording videos, the amount of time that you save by having some kind of run of show or plan and building it out visually as scenes is crazy. Like, it's whether you call it live to tape or or it's your recording process or your run of show, whatever you want to call it. The act of doing that not only visually gives you your plan, so you know how to flow through it and you don't forget anything and everything looks great, but it's saving time in editing and post-production because you don't have to add those files in later. You don't have to, and if you make a mistake, there's tons of ways that you can mark that so that you can do some really quick edits that are way easier than if you were doing audio only, or if you didn't have scenes or profiles. Like I feel like sometimes we just forget how much easier it is and how much time we're all saving. Like even the ability for us right now to be like, oh, we're recording the flow, so I'm going to switch into the flow profile. We have all of these scenes all built out. Like if there's any mistake, we could do a visual like X, and Luis would know, be like, oh shoot, something happened there, and be able to cut that part out. Or we can use the markers button within Ecamm to mark it out. So I think it's really smart that you have enough of a background that like what the flow of the show needs to be, what you've added in, but then I'm sure it's saving you a ton of time in all of that post-production work because you have the video element, because you're using this style of planning it out.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was thinking those old school shows from the 80s, right? If you ever watch a behind the scenes now, because you can get them. Before, we had no way of knowing what was going on. It was all magic to us, right? But in those old school shows of the 80s, even something like AbFab, absolutely fabulous for those of you who don't know, right?
We all
know. In the sound stage, there's the living room scene, then there's like the hallway scene, and then there's the other room scene. And it's on the same stage. And the camera was on a long track. And so what they would do is they'd be recording the scene and they just slide the camera and they record the parts of the hallway, and then they slide the camera and they do the other apartment. Okay. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's literally, this is exactly what your scenes are. Yeah. If you were to see Different Strokes or All in the Family or whatever on the soundstage, there's no actual upstairs. Right, the upstairs is the ladder.
Yeah,
right. The bedroom what you talking about, Willis, is right next to the living room, and all you do is slide the camera, and you have a whole different look. It's, for those of us at home watching Arnold, we were like, "Yo, this is great." We had no idea that's all on a single plane.
Yeah.
This is exactly what you're doing in your Ecamm with building your scenes and profiles, like Katie said. And it could be completely different. It could be a whole different show. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people don't know this. Ricky's house in Silver Spoons was the same house as Different Strokes. All they did was change the overlays. If you really think about it, all they did is the exact same setup, same soundstage, same everything. All they did was change the overlays.
Wow. Wow. Well, there you go.
You just blew Val's mind.
Right? Go back and watch it and you'll be able to tell. Like, why is it in TV shows in the 80s, the steps was always up and to the left? Because it's the same soundstage, people. You know, when Norman Lear has like 15 shows and all the houses are in the same configuration, go figure. That was the Ecamm scene. Kid and Glenn watched too much TV when they was kids. That's crazy, right? Look, you're thinking about it, Val.
Yeah. You know, when my mind just went to Frasier, and I'm thinking between Frasier's house,
that's the best,
that's the whole radio thing, isn't it? With Frasier, right? I'm listening. I'm just thinking between
in my head. Stop.
Him and Niles' house, right? Because the stairs were in the same place. I don't know if you to the left, like what you're saying. So okay.
Yeah. It was Ecamm, bro. They changed profiles, so they changed scenes. It's the same setup, bro. It's the same setup. Oh my goodness, it's funny. And you know, when Katie was talking about it, it just dawned on me because we've been talking about this for a long time, like helping people wrap their head around it. And if you really go back, I mean, like you could just go through myriad shows, bro. And that living room config is the same. There's a couch, there's two chairs, there's a little drape on the couch if it's old school. Yep. There's no drape on the couch if it's new school. And the steps, you always had a little banner so they can stop and say a little soliloquy at the steps. And there's Webster and like all of them shows, all the same. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. So what would you say is the one thing that you could tell someone about what you do in order to inspire them?
Yeah, so I would say that the time is now. Don't wait. There's that whole thing about the learning curve of getting to that perfected place, right? And if you don't start, then you're never going to move down that line. If you go back and look at what I did in 2020 to where I am now, it's by going out and making the mistakes. You know, sometimes you have a guest on and the audio just ain't recording. Hello, and it's not like now that you've got the, you know, you've got the audio that you can record for all of your guests, and you know, even if yours doesn't record, you've got something else. Back then, you know, you had one chance and one chance only, live guest on, and then, you know, you're thinking, okay, I got you, and then the audio isn't working. But it is about going out there and taking those chances, and I really believe is learning. And Rome was never built in a day. You got to take small steps to get there. It's small increments that give you kind of like the improvement that you need to take. Sometimes you take big steps, but it's always about taking those little things. You look and you watch, you know, guys like Doc and yourself, Katie, and you think, oh, I like that. How can I do that in my show? Or how can I replicate that? And I think, but if you never start, you can't win the race if you're not in the starting blocks. That's probably what I would say.
Yeah, I think it's really true. It's funny, when I was a kid, my dad used to always say that, like, you can't steer a parked car. Like, it was like you have to get in and turn the car before you can do anything. And as a kid, it never like fully registered for me. But the older I get and the more that I'm doing stuff, I'm like, yeah, that's the hardest part, right? It's just like the initial start. And it's so easy at that part to overthink. And especially right now, like, I don't think people fully appreciate how, because it's so accessible to all of us, right? So like, we're past this like radio television point where literally anyone from a very young age all the way up can do this really easily, really affordably. It's also really, really visual. So we have this opportunity to see behind the curtain, to see what everyone else is doing. Yeah. And that can be something that stops you as well, is seeing what everyone is doing. It can almost feel like too many directions that you want to go in. Like, I like that, and stop you from starting. But the start, although the hardest part, is also like just the starting part. Like, you're not committing to that's what your show's going to look like forever. You're not committing to having a show forever. You're not committing to the format. You're not, like, it's just the first step of a, hopefully, a huge, long, successful journey. But I feel like I've been thinking a lot about this myself, especially this week. I'm like struggling with and fighting a lot of like, oh, did I make the right decision on this thing? Or I should have done this thing differently, or I should have done that thing differently.
And I higher ever. What are you talking about?
Right? Yeah. But I sure, exactly, Doug. But I keep having to remind myself that like I'm at this really like amazing point of my life and of my career where like I can course correct. It's way easier to course correct than it is if I hadn't started at all and I was sitting here thinking like, oh, it's too big and it's hard. So I love that you were able to just start. I love that you were like, okay, now I need to add video. Okay, now I've got to build it more and make these changes. And you might make a ton more changes as you go. But yeah, I totally agree with you. We say this all the time on the show, and it always sounds so like easy, but I do appreciate the fact that it may not be. It may feel big, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. So I think it's really important for people to hear from everyone. From everyone.
Because I would say for most of the people that are listening, getting married and having kids felt big, but y'all did that. You didn't even think about it. Some of y'all did it by accident. So look, and some of y'all made the mistake and then corrected it, and then made the mistake again and then corrected it, and on you're on number 3, right? Or you tailored it, right? It doesn't matter. Like all of these things are sort of redoable. Yeah. And it is so easy to psych yourself out and then get really confused and caught into the weeds. And I thought of something as you were speaking, Katie, about the visual side and sort of whole comparison. Now, you might not have done this, Katie, being in Canada, but I guarantee you, Val and I did it. Val, when you're a kid, did you ever snatch one of mom's towels and tie it around your neck like a little cape and then run around the house and jump off the steps or jump over bushes and jump out the window? Why? Because we watched Batman and Superman.
Yeah, I watched Batman and Superman. I'm not that far off from
it. Girls dumb enough to try to jump out the window with a towel on the neck. We did. True. So boys are reckless. But the thing is, you saw something, and because of the what is the word? The pure, innocent, and curious nature of a child, we went to copy that. Yeah. You know damn well, according to gravity, you can't fly. Yep. 100% is impossible. But we tied that towel on and we was running around the house and we were diving over the couch or, out in Nan's backyard, jumping over bushes or whatever. And then, until you get a whooping, you just thought you could be Superman. You had no qualms about trying to be Superman. Yeah. So now you see Val or us, I want to do this show, and you start like psyching yourself out. I'm asking you to go back to 8-year-old you, plug the damn thing in, turn it on, and start talking.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the best way. That is.
And I'm just glad to know that Val wrote the towel on his neck. It wasn't just me.
Yeah. No. Everybody wanted to be Superman. Come on.
Dude, we all wanted to be Superman. Like, I was mad because I couldn't get Superman like glasses that fit my head. When they first said I had to wear glasses, and the doctor was like, "Oh, most kids cry when they get glasses." No, I want the same ones as Clark Kent.
Yeah, you're like, I want Clark Kent.
Kid size. I want the same ones as Clark Kent. Then I got smart and became Marvel. Never mind.
What's next up on the show for you, or what's next up in the world of video production?
Just as a disclaimer as well, when I made the jump to video, I didn't really know anything at all about video. So I've learned this as I've gone along. All right.
That's the best disclaimer. Everyone needs to hear that one more time. When I started, I didn't know anything, and I did it anyway. Like that, 100%.
The truth is,
because we had a faith for radio.
Yeah, I didn't want to do video. The video was not part of it because I always thought anything to do with video, you got to do the editing, and I'm just not into that video editing. It's going to take forever, and so I was never really into it. But as time went on and I could see kind of like the direction that I was going in, you have to learn a bit more about bit rates and streaming and shutter speeds and everything else like that. I dabble with my camera because I love taking pictures, but I could throw that thing on auto and I'm good to go, so I was kind of cool. But for me next, I think I've just reached to that place. I'm just trying to solidify everything that I'm doing. We're bringing in more people, families getting more involved as well. So,
Love that.
that's been a really great element for me as well. And I think there's that bit that I just want to help people that may well be in a similar situation to me. You know, where maybe you want to do it. You've got these great ideas. Like my sister-in-laws came the other day and they said, one of them, we're thinking of doing a podcast. And it was so funny because they then said, I said, well, you're going to need a studio. And I started reeling off all the stuff. And then my wife goes, but can't you do it for them? Because you got a studio and everything. I thought, yeah, that's true. You know, but you're
a good man. My answer would have been like, no.
It's too late. It's family, man. You know, but it never just really dawned on me. And I said, look, there's this whole other thing that we can do now that you're at this kind of level, that you can really kind of like work with other people as well as not just myself and doing what I'm doing on the radio show as well. So yeah, we're hoping radio wise to expand and do more radio as well, try to get commercial licenses and do all that kind of stuff as well. And, just really kind of spread our brand and what we're trying to do further around. But, you know, as I said, it's always been more than just the music. It's been this eye in my studio where people see what goes on and working with products like Ecamm, as I said, just makes things easier for me. I mean, I've done funerals using Ecamm. I've sent somebody there with the camera with an Ecamm link, and they've been able to go in, and I've taken that and been able to stream funerals in lockdown. So there's just so many different things I've kind of like been able to do. It's just absolutely amazing. You know, then everybody was after the Zoom thing, and you know, the Zoom can get hijacked, right? So talking of which, the Zoom integration as well, thumbs up for that, because that's absolutely amazing. Those of you that don't know, Ecamm and Zoom, brothers and sisters, they are all under the same house now, right?
Yeah, exactly. I know it always cracks me up when people say, and I'm guilty of this as well, so I will say this as a member of this audience, but you know, everyone always starts with saying like, well, I'm not overly technical, so I I'm not the best person to answer your question or to give you advice or to, and then they list off that they're like doing, 2 podcasts and a live show and they've built this studio. And it's like, well, but I don't really know how to use any of this stuff. And it's like, okay, but you do more than the person that's asking you or saying that they want to start a show or that, is watching what you're doing online or seeing what you're up to. So it is, if you push the buttons and you try and you take those first steps going forward, you're going to learn really quickly and you're going to be leagues better than you were and leagues better than the person who hasn't yet started. So you have an opportunity to help yourself and to help everyone else around you. And I think that's what's so special and awesome about the whole Ecamm fam and everyone really that's in this space who's getting into podcasting, who's getting into video production and live streaming, is that they're the people that are willing to try and to push the buttons and to do the thing. And there really is a space for everyone here, which is really cool. Like it's no more, again, for just people who have $1 million studios. Anyone can do it, and more people jumping into the space all the time. So it's neat. I love hearing these stories.
I've just got to say really, really quickly, I've got to say the support level, you can buy software and you don't really get the owners, you have a problem and the owners actually, address the problem, fix the problem, roll out a beta as well that you can, and I've never actually used, just to say, I use the beta, so the Ecamm beta all the time. It is such a fantastic, I can't even begin to explain. When I looked at where the actual version is to where the beta, I said, why would I ever want to go back and use that? So I use the beta all the time, but the support is second to none. Glenn and Ken from you guys as well in the beta bunch, the videos and everything. You have an issue, somebody's going to speak back to you and help you out. And I think that's really where the whole Ecamm fam for me really works. You can't, no man is an island, and it's a great support network to be part of too.
That's so good. Yeah. Well, both of us live on one, but that's a different story.
I don't anymore. I used to live in Montreal, which was an island, but now I'm not.
That's so good. Man, this has been absolutely incredible. If people want to find out more or get in contact with you, what is the best way in order for that to happen?
So the best thing is to go over to www.soulfoodgospel.com. That's the website where the radio hosts, and you can get in contact with me through there. On Instagram, if you want to hit me on Instagram as well. It's a little bit more complicated. It's at Elder Valentine Fadayomi. So I always tell people, just go straight to the website. Just in case, just go straight to the website, and then you'll see all the links to everything that we do, and you can reach me out there. You'll find ways to be able to get hold of me through there. But that's the easiest place, the website.
That's good, because I mean, I would never be able to spell that.
Doc would be in trouble.
Twitter is easier. It's DJ Val F. So, but you know, Twitter is a thing, and some people are just not into Twitter as much as before. So, before we used to, you know, it was a big thing for us to be on Twitter as a radio station as well. But seems to have, you know, slow down.
Times are changing.
Oh,
yeah.
Look, this is absolutely phenomenal. I think it's great what you're doing, and I love the inspiration that you give people. Listen, none of us knew how to speak English or whatever you speak,
or whatever language you speak.
And then you get to about 3, and they cannot get you to stop. You know what I mean? When you first start out, you're just like, and then next, like, well, according to the dinosaurs, did you know, like, some of the dinosaurs can fly? And then your dad is like, Jesus, kid, shut up, and then, so, it's amazing that how easy we can psych ourselves out of things. And so I appreciate the fact that, you just went in and like, I'm going to just figure this mess out and just have faith and just keep going. And so you did it, and that's pretty amazing.
Amen. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Well, yeah, we should take it away. So this show,
give you the promos today, because I got
give me the giving me the promos. Well, the show is still on break for a little bit longer, so this is a pop-up episode into your feed. You're welcome. We thought you needed some summertime inspiration, so we're excited to do that. We should be back though pretty soon here, and we also have a podcast course coming soon if you want to learn how to start a video podcast. So keep in the loop on that. It'll be coming your way shortly, but you can always find us. flow.ecamm.com is our website. Thank you so much to the team at Podpage for helping us make it look awesome. It's got all the stuff there. You can sign up to be a guest like Val did. You can leave us a voicemail. You can see all the past episodes and all of the different places to listen, which includes all of these great places you see if you're watching us here on YouTube. We are on YouTube Music. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We need to update this like Google Podcasts, which is no more. all the different places. But hopefully you listen on your favorite place. And this show, like almost every single other one, is brought to you by our friends at Captivate, because they really are the best podcast host, if we're being totally honest, because they just have literally every feature built in. And we know the founder, and he is got almost the exact same vibe really as Ken and Glenn. Like, he is just there to make podcasting easier and better for folks. So align yourself with tools and people that care and that make a difference. And Captivate is definitely one of them. So be sure to check it out, captivate.fm.
Oh, that was so good. Thank you, Val. Thank you, Kate. I have to run to the eye doctor so that I can continue to see.
We'd like for you to be able to see. That's an important aspect.
Here's the funniest thing. Every time I have an eye doctor appointment, I can't sleep the night before. And it's so psychological, because I say I want to get a good rest, so my eyes are like, well rested, so I'll be able to read that chart with reckless abandon every single time. It never fails. I can't sleep the day before the eye doctor's appointment. So I'll be sitting over there like, F? And they'll be like, dude, that's an S. Okay. I think it's time for a think of All right, Flow Riders, this has been great. We will see you soon. And my favorite part of the show, and I hope that nephew Aiden is listening, Flow Riders out.
Bye, everyone.